There we go. Hey, Allison Verhalen here, coming at you live for today's Marketing Monday. And today I want to talk to you about, I'm going to focus on product marketing strategy here, which is not something that I normally focus on, but it is something that I do for my clients and have done in the past. And I honestly can't remember what made me think about this topic. But I wanted to talk about why you should start your marketing before you launch. So, first and foremost, market research, right? You have to make sure there's actually a market for this product. In marketing, we talk all the time about making sure that your product or service actually solves a problem. A lot of people would say if it does not solve a problem, there's no point in marketing it, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you can kind of create a problem, and the world of marketing is full of stories about people who invented a problem in order to solve their product. Something I have never forgotten. I can't remember when I actually first heard about this. It was probably one of my psych classes, but it was one of the original ads in like early 1900s, like 1920s or 30s, I want to say, for Listerine, right? Because mouthwash wasn't a thing. We didn't, apparently, people didn't think about fresh breath the way they think about it now, but someone created this ad of a girl who was stuck home during the dance because she didn't have fresh breath because she didn't use Listerine. So they kind of created this problem that their product could solve, even though it was something that no one had ever used or thought they would needed to use before they came up with this product, before this marketing campaign. So it doesn't necessarily have to solve a problem, but I do think you're better off if it does solve a problem. So, some of the follow-up questions after does it solve a problem is how big is the market, right? It might solve a problem for a few people. And you can get an idea of this if you watch Shark Tank, because they're always thinking about like, is there a big enough market for this? How much money am I going to get a return on my investment if I invest in this company, in this product? Are there related products we can make after we've kind of saturated the market on this one. So how big is the market is a big one, obviously. Are there existing competitors in that space? So if everyone is already happy with what they got and there's no more room for you, then maybe you don't need to invest in this product. Maybe it's not worth your time. Um, so look at if there are existing competitors, look at as whether or not there's room for another competitor in that space. Is there room for you to come in and kind of, I don't want to say disrupt because that's such an overused word, especially in business, but is there room for you to come in and serve maybe a subgroup of the market there? Which leads into the next question is your product unique? Are you just selling the same thing that everyone else is selling? Or is there something specific that your product does that none of the other products out there are doing? So that's another way that you can come in. And again, I don't want to use that awful word disrupt because it gets overused and misused. But you have to be able to sell something that no one else is selling. Because if they can get what you're getting somewhere else, then why would they buy from you? So, does the product, this is key though, the problem that you are solving, is this a problem that people will pay to have solved for them? Because sometimes it's a super minor problem and people don't actually care that much. Um, the caveat to that, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in identifying your target audience, is whether people will pay what you're asking to solve that problem. Because if you're selling at a high price point, but you're solving kind of a low level, like mild annoyance, people aren't always going to pay that much to solve that low level mild annoyance, right? So that's the other thing you have to consider. Who is your target audience? Is there an untapped audience within this market that could become your target audience? I talked about that a little bit when I was talking about whether or not there are competitors in this space. Maybe there are competitors serving a majority of the people who need that product, but maybe there's a niche in there that you could target, that That's where the gold is, right? Is in those niches. Will existing customers buy this new product from you? Is another great question. So if they're already buying from another company, will they switch over and buy from you? And if so, why? That's a super important thing to keep in mind. Obviously, identify your target audience. The last thing you want to do is spending a lot of time and money creating a product only to tell the wrong people about it, right? If you don't have your target audience nailed in from day one, you can again waste a lot of time and money, and no one has time or money to waste, right? um, Again, maybe the people you think you're targeting, maybe they don't really have that problem you're trying to solve, or they found a different way to solve it. Maybe they'd love to solve that problem, but they can't afford your price point. So you have to find that sweet spot of the people who are struggling with this problem, are able and willing to pay your price point to solve it. So your marketing people can help you do that research and determine whether there is a market there, and B, how to market to that target audience. And following up on that, generating buzz, right? So you don't want to start marketing after you've launched it. You want to start generating buzz for this new product before you launch it so that by the time you launch it and start selling, people are already excited about it, right? I compare a lot in this blog post to, by the way, you can read more about this on my blog, avwritingservices.com. So you can generate buzz before a product goes live. Again, I've been talking a lot about publishing and comparing a lot of this marketing strategy to the publishing world, which usually does generate buzz before a book gets launched because they want to get all those pre orders in. They want people lining up at the store. I mean, back in the day, it was all right. I grew up when Harry Potter was coming out, so we would all line up at Harry Potter at the bookstores, midnight the day those books came out so that we could get our copy on the day. That's not really a thing anymore, but that's because there was so much buzz for this. Admittedly, that was a series. I don't think anyone was lining up for the first book, but certainly for the sequels, people were lining up to get those books. So you want to get buzz going, get those pre-orders in, because if you get pre-orders, that all registers as sales you made on that first day that it launched. That's how a lot of authors, especially self-published authors on Amazon, that's how they get that bestseller status is the pre-orders. And again, niching down, because you can be a best-selling Amazon author in a specific category, and bam, you're a best-selling author. That's all you need. You don't have to be the number one selling book on all of Amazon or all of the world, just in that one category, and then you can call yourself a best-selling author. How awesome is that? So I do want to touch on strategy for services. Again, especially professional services, because that is my sweet spot. A lot of these same tips do hold true for when you're launching a new service. The only difference, and again, this depends on the service you're providing, is there's usually less involved in launching a new service, right? So for me, if I want to offer a new service, again, it's going to be marketing, writing related, right? So usually all I have to do is say, oh, yeah, I do offer that service. Let me go ahead and write this up. I can write up a sales page, publish it on my website, start talking it up, letting people know that I do this. Awesome. I'm done. I've spent an hour, maybe 2 hours of my time letting people know about this. So absolutely take advantage of that. Um, so there's not as much involved in launching your service, because you don't have to come up with materials and find a manufacturer and get the distribution down. You don't have to worry about any of that. It's just putting something new up on your website. That's not always the case. Some services require a certification or a higher level of education before you can start offering them. Legal and financial services come to mind because, again, that's my sweet spot. No one wants to go into getting a law degree if you're solving a problem that everyone, either no one cares about, no one wants to solve that problem, or people can't afford to hire you. Law school is too expensive to waste on that, right? So regardless of whether it's products or services, I always recommend doing at least some research beforehand so you know the best way to let people know that the product or service exists. And if you need any help doing that research, I would love to chat. Again, you can always check me out here, and you can check out my website, AV, as in my initials, Allison Verhalen. I'm at avwritingservices.com. That's it. Have a great week and happy blogging, everyone.